silence has been long, months maybe longer, months or years of complete separation, complete absence of contact, no reaching out, no communication, no interaction, just silence, pure sustained silence that felt permanent, felt like ending that would never reverse, felt like they'd moved on completely, felt like you'd never hear from them again. The silence created belief that they didn't care, belief that they'd forgotten you, belief that you meant nothing to them, belief that defended position was more important than connection with you, belief that they were fine without you. The belief made moving on possible, made letting go feel necessary, made building life without them feel like only option. You moved forward into the silence, built in the absence, created life that worked without them, healed from what relationship cost you. The silence became normal, became background reality, became permanent feature of life that no longer included them. But then something happens. Something breaks the silence that felt unbreakable. They reach out. After months or years of nothing, after sustained complete silence, after period long enough that you'd adjusted to life without them, they make contact. They break the silence they created. They initiate after all the time of not initiating. They reach out after all the absence. The reaching out happens eventually, happens so consistently it's pattern that repeats with such reliability you can predict it. The avoidant who went silent eventually faces you, eventually breaks the silence, eventually reaches out after sustained absence. And when they do, when they finally face you after long silence, specific thing happens. Specific predictable response occurs. Specific behavior manifests that happens every single time. With such consistency, it reveals something fundamental about their psychology. Understanding what happens when they finally face you after long silence reveals what the silence was actually doing to them, why they eventually break silence. They seemed committed to maintaining what facing you after absence triggers in their psychology, and why their predictable response should inform your boundaries rather than soften them. What happens every single time, the predictable response when they finally face you. There's specific thing that happens when avoidant finally faces you after long silence. Understanding this predictable response helps you see the pattern clearly. They're overwhelmed with emotion they can't control. The seeing you triggers flood of suppressed feeling, destroying defended composure they maintained during absence. They see you after months or years of not seeing you. See you physically present, see you in person instead of in imagination, see you real instead of remembered. The seeing triggers something, triggers immediate overwhelming emotion, emotion they can't control, can't suppress, can't defend against. The emotion floods them, shows on their face, shows in their body language, shows in immediate visible response to seeing you. They might tear up, might visibly shake, might have difficulty speaking, might look like they're barely holding themselves together. The visible overwhelm is immediate, is them unable to maintain defended composure, unable to present indifferent exterior, unable to hide what they're feeling in moment of actually seeing you after sustained absence. The overwhelm happens every time, happens with such predictability, it's revealing, is them discovering suppressing feeling during absence is different from suppressing feeling while facing you. Absence made suppression possible, made defended distance sustainable, made them able to maintain that they're fine, they've moved on, they don't feel much. But facing you destroys the suppression, destroys it immediately, makes all suppressed feeling surface, makes defended composure impossible, makes them feel everything they've been defending against feeling during entire silence. The everything is overwhelming, is months or years of suppressed feeling arriving simultaneously in moment of seeing you, is them experiencing immediate emotional flood that proves silence wasn't indifference, was suppression, was them defending against feeling that seeing you makes undeniable and overwhelming. The overwhelm proves they weren't fine during silence. They were defended. They weren't indifferent. They were suppressing. They weren't over you. They were avoiding feeling about you by avoiding seeing you. The seeing eliminates the avoiding, eliminates the suppression, makes feeling undeniable, makes them experience in your presence what they could defend against in your absence. The experiencing is what creates the overwhelm, is what makes composed impossible, is what proves silence was defense, not indifference. Their visible overwhelm when seeing you after long silence happens every time, because seeing eliminates suppression that silence was maintaining. They try to act casual while clearly not being casual, attempting to present indifference that their body language and emotional state completely contradict. They try to act casual, try to present like seeing you is no big deal, try to seem unaffected, try to communicate through behavior. This is casual encounter. I'm fine. Seeing you doesn't mean much to me. I'm just being friendly. The trying is obvious, is them attempting to perform casualness while everything about them contradicts the performance. Their voice shakes while claiming they're good. Their hands tremble while acting relaxed. Their eyes show intense emotion while words claim indifference. Their body leans toward you while claiming they're just saying quick hello. The contradiction between attempted casualness and actual emotional state is visible, is them trying to maintain defended presentation while defended presentation is impossible to maintain because emotion is too overwhelming to hide. The attempted casualness happens every time, happens because they need to protect themselves, need to maintain some defended control, need to prevent you from seeing full extent of what they're feeling, need to avoid vulnerability of admitting seeing you is affecting them profoundly. The need makes them try casualness, try to seem unaffected, try to present indifference. But trying fails because feeling is too strong, too visible, too overwhelming to successfully hide. The failing creates the contradiction, creates them performing casualness while obviously not being casual, creates obvious pretense that reveals more than successful casualness would reveal. Successful casualness would communicate indifference. Failed casualness communicates, I'm trying to seem indifferent because I'm feeling so much I need to hide it. The failed attempt proves feeling more than successful attempt would prove. The trying and failing happens every time because seeing you creates emotion too strong to hide, while defended position requires trying to hide. The requirement to hide plus impossibility of hiding creates the predictable contradiction, creates them attempting casualness their emotional state makes impossible, creates obvious performance that reveals they're performing because they're feeling too much to not perform. Their attempted casualness, contradicting their visible emotional state, happens every time, proves seeing you affects them profoundly, proves they need to hide how profoundly while being unable to hide it, proves silence was defense and seeing eliminates defense. They want to explain the silence but can't find adequate words, struggling to justify absence while recognizing no justification is adequate for sustained withdrawal. They want to explain, want to justify the silence, want to make you understand why they went silent, why they stayed silent, why months or years passed without contact. The wanting to explain is visible, is them searching for words, struggling to articulate, trying to find explanation that makes silence make sense, trying to justify withdrawal in ways that sounds reasonable, but they can't find adequate words, can't find explanation that justifies sustained complete silence, can't articulate reason that makes months or years of absence sound acceptable. They try various explanations. I needed space. I was dealing with things. I thought it was better for both of us. I didn't know what to say. I was respecting your boundaries. All explanations sound insufficient, sound like rationalizations, sound like defended justifications that don't actually justify sustained, complete withdrawal. The struggling to explain happens every time, happens because there is an adequate explanation, no words that make sustained silence justified, no explanation that makes months or years of no contact sound reasonable. Silence was defended choice, was them choosing defended comfort over maintaining connection, was them prioritizing their emotional safety over your need for communication, was them protecting themselves by eliminating you from their life. The truth of what silence was doesn't sound good, doesn't make them look good, doesn't justify what they did, so they search for better explanation, search for words that make choice sound less selfish, search for justification that makes absence seem necessary rather than chosen for their defended comfort. But search fails because adequate words don't exist. Silence was what it was. Them choosing defended absence over difficult presence. No way to make that sound justified. The failing to find adequate explanation happens every time. Happens because they're facing, silence hurt you. I caused that hurt. I can't justify causing that hurt in ways that makes causing it sound acceptable. The facing makes them struggle, makes them search for words that don't exist, makes them try explanations that sound insufficient even as they're saying them. They're struggling to explain while recognizing explanations are inadequate. Happens every time. Proves they know silence wasn't justified. No, they hurt you. No words make hurting you through sustained absence sound okay. Their struggling proves they're facing their choice, and facing that choice wasn't justified by anything except their defended comfort. The facing is uncomfortable, is why they struggle, is why explanations sound insufficient, is why they can't find words that make what they did sound acceptable. They're desperate to know if you still care. Every question, every comment, fishing for information about whether they still matter to you. They're fishing for information. Information about whether you still care, whether you've moved on, whether you're with someone else, whether they still matter to you. The fishing is constant. Is them asking questions designed to reveal your emotional state? Asking, how have you been? Are you seeing anyone? Do you ever think about me? Have you been okay? Making comments designed to gauge your response. Comments about how much they've missed you, how often they've thought about you, how no one compares to you, all designed to see how you respond, to see if responses reveal you still care, all fishing for evidence they still matter, for proof silence didn't eliminate their significance, for confirmation you're not completely over them. The desperate fishing happens every time. Happens because they need to know. Need to know if doors still open. Need to know if possibility still exists. Need to know if silence destroyed everything or if something remains. The needing drives the fishing, drives them asking questions and making comments and watching your responses intensely for any sign you still care, for any indication they still matter, for any evidence possibility exists. The intensity of their fishing reveals their desperation, reveals how much they need to know, reveals they're terrified you've moved on completely. Terrified silence cost them you permanently. Terrified they still care intensely while you don't care at all anymore. The fishing happens every time because seeing you after silence creates urgent need to know where they stand, need to know if they've lost you completely or if chance remains. Need to know if all suppressed feeling they're experiencing is about something possible or about something permanently lost. The urgency makes them fish, makes them desperate for information, makes them obvious in their fishing, because desperation makes subtlety impossible. Their desperate fishing for evidence you still care happens every time. Proves they care desperately. Proves they're terrified you don't care anymore. Proves they need to know if silence destroyed possibility, or if possibility survived silence. The desperate needing to know is what makes fishing constant and obvious every single time. The uncomfortable mirror turn, if their overwhelm makes you want to comfort them, examine whether you're prioritizing their feelings over your healing. But examine your response to their overwhelm, to their visible emotion, to their struggling and fishing and obvious affect. Why does their overwhelm affect you? Why does their visible distress create pull to comfort them? Why does their struggling create desire to make them feel better? Because if you've genuinely healed, if you've genuinely moved on, if you've genuinely built life without them, their overwhelm should be their experience to manage. Their distress should be theirs to handle. Their struggling should be between them and themselves. You shouldn't feel pulled to comfort, shouldn't feel responsible for managing their emotional response to seeing you, shouldn't feel need to make their overwhelm easier for them. The fact that their overwhelm pulls you toward comforting reveals something about where you are in your healing, reveals you might not be as healed as you thought, might not be as moved on as appeared, might still be caretaking their emotions, still feeling responsible for their emotional state, still prioritizing their feelings over your own well-being, still oriented toward managing their distress instead of maintaining boundaries that protect you from being pulled back into dynamic where you manage their emotions while yours remain unmet. Their overwhelm is theirs, is consequence of their choice to go silent, is their experiencing what silence cost them, is their facing what they did by seeing what they lost, is their emotional response to their choices, not your responsibility, not your problem to solve, not your distress to comfort. Stop prioritizing their feelings over your healing. Stop feeling responsible for their overwhelm. Stop wanting to comfort them because they're struggling. They chose silence. They chose sustained absence. They chose defended comfort over difficult presence. Now they're experiencing emotional consequence of their choices. The experiencing is appropriate, is them feeling cost of what they chose. Let them feel it. Let them sit with overwhelm. Let them struggle with inadequacy of explanations. Let them face that silence hurt you and hurt them, and they chose it anyway. Don't comfort. Don't make easier. Don't manage their emotions. Maintain your boundary. Protect your healing. Choose yourself over their overwhelm. Their feelings are between them and themselves, between them and their choices, between them and consequences of sustained silence, not between them and you, not your responsibility to manage or comfort or ease. If their overwhelm pulls you toward comforting, recognize pull as old pattern of you caretaking their emotions, pattern of you managing their distress, pattern of you prioritizing their feelings over your needs, pattern that served them, didn't serve you. Don't return to pattern. Maintain boundary. Let their overwhelm be theirs. Choose your healing over their comfort. Why the silence ended. When it did, what finally drove them to break. Sustained absence. Understanding what ends. The silence helps you see what drove them to finally reach out, revealing motivation that should inform your response. They hit threshold where pain of silence exceeded fear of facing you. Sustained suppression became more painful than potential vulnerability of contact. During silence, they were managing competing pains. Pain of missing you versus pain of facing you. Pain of absence versus pain of presence requiring vulnerability. Pain of loneliness versus pain of intimacy triggering wounds. Throughout silence, pain of facing you, pain of vulnerability, of potential rejection, of admitting they care, was greater than pain of missing you. Greater pain won, kept them silent, kept them absent, kept them choosing defended comfort of not facing over difficult discomfort of facing. But pains shift over time. Pain of absence accumulates daily, accumulates through missing you, through comparisons proving no one else is you, through recognizing life without you is insufficient, through suppression of feeling becoming increasingly costly. The accumulated pain eventually exceeds the static pain of facing you. When accumulated pain of silence becomes greater than fear, of vulnerability facing requires, threshold is crossed. Threshold where staying silent is more painful than breaking silence, where suppression costs more than expression, where absence hurts more than presence. Crossing threshold is what ends silence, is what drives them to finally reach out, is them choosing pain of facing you is now less than pain of continued silence. Pain of potential rejection is now manageable compared to pain of sustained absence. Pain of vulnerability is now preferable to pain of suppression. The threshold being crossed is what makes them break silence, is what makes sustained absence finally end, is them reaching point where they can't sustain silence anymore because sustaining costs too much. The threshold proves they reached out because pain forced them, because suppression became unbearable, because absence hurt enough to override fear of facing. They didn't reach out because they've transformed, didn't reach out because they've healed defended position, didn't reach out because they've developed capacity. Reached out because pain of silence exceeded pain of facing. The pain-driven reaching out doesn't prove readiness, proves crisis, proves threshold crossed. proves they're hurting enough that facing you feels necessary despite fear of facing their pain, their crisis, their threshold. Not transformation, not healing, not readiness, just pain becoming unbearable enough to force contact despite fear. Something triggered recognition of what they lost, seeing you thriving, comparison with new person, significant life event making them face mortality or meaning. Specific trigger often precipitates breaking silence. Trigger that makes loss undeniable, makes what they're missing impossible to suppress, makes absence feel intolerable. Common triggers: seeing you thriving, seeing through social media or mutual friends that you're doing well, that you're happy, that you're building life that works without them. The seeing triggers recognition. I lost someone who's thriving, someone valuable, someone who's better off without me. The recognition makes loss feel urgent, makes reaching out feel necessary before thriving, leads you completely away from them. Or trigger is comparison. Is them dating someone new and discovering new person isn't you, can't match you. Falls short in ways that make your exceptional nature undeniable. The comparison triggers recognition. I lost the best I ever had. Lost someone irreplaceable. Lost someone I'm not finding in anyone else. The recognition makes reaching out feel necessary before realizing too late they'll never find someone comparable. Or trigger is a life event, significant event that creates existential facing. Death of loved one, health scare, milestone birthday, major life transition, event that makes them face mortality or meaning, or what matters. The facing triggers recognition. Life is short, I'm wasting life avoiding what matters. You matter, I lost you, through avoiding. The recognition makes reaching out feel urgent, makes silence feel like waste, makes facing you feel necessary before more time passes and possibility is permanently lost. Whatever specific trigger, seeing you thrive, comparison proving you're irreplaceable, life event creating existential facing, trigger makes loss undeniable, makes silence feel intolerable, makes reaching out feel necessary. The trigger is what ends silence when it ends, is what creates the specific timing of their breaking sustained absence. The trigger, driven reaching out, proves external event forced them to face what they've been avoiding. Event created crisis that made suppression impossible. Event triggered recognition that ended silence. They didn't choose to face through internal growth. Event forced facing through external crisis. External forcing doesn't prove internal transformation. Proves event created crisis requiring response. Response is reaching out. Reaching out driven by crisis doesn't prove readiness. Proves crisis forced contact despite continued defended position. They're testing whether possibility still exists, reaching out to see if door is open before committing to any specific request or vulnerability. They're testing before committing, testing to see if possibility exists before revealing full extent of what they want, testing whether you're receptive before making themselves vulnerable with actual request. The testing is what initial contact is them reaching out with something casual, something that doesn't reveal full motivation, something that allows retreat if response is cold, something that gauges your openness without requiring them to be fully open. They reach out with, saw something that reminded me of you. Hope you're doing well. Been thinking about you lately. Was wondering how you are. All casual, or low commitment, all allowing them to retreat into just being friendly if your response suggests you're not open to more. The testing happens because they need to know before risking, need to know if you're open before being vulnerable, need to know if possibility exists before revealing they're hoping for possibility. The needing makes initial contact tentative, makes it fishing, makes it casual seeming while actually being significant test. They're testing. Does she respond? Is response warm or cold? Does response suggest openness or definitive closure? Is door cracked or completely sealed? The testing tells them whether to proceed, whether to reveal more, whether to be more vulnerable about what they actually want, or whether to retreat back into defended position because test and revealed door is closed. The testing proves they're not leading with vulnerable honesty. They're defending while testing. They're protecting themselves by making initial contact casual enough to allow retreat if testing reveals you're not receptive. The defended testing doesn't prove transformation, proves they're still defended, still protecting, still unwilling to be vulnerable without knowing vulnerability will be received warmly, still testing rather than committing. Testing is defended strategy, is them wanting to know your position before revealing theirs, is them protecting themselves while fishing for information that determines whether they proceed or retreat. Testing proves defended position persists, proves they're still operating from defended self-protection, proves reaching out doesn't mean they've transformed into person capable of vulnerable directness. What you should do when they finally face you, responding without compromising your healing, understanding how to respond when they break silence helps you maintain boundaries while handling encounter that triggers old patterns. Acknowledge without engaging deeply, being civil without being warm, protecting yourself from being pulled into conversation that serves their closure more than your healing. They reach out, they face you. You can acknowledge, can be civil, can respond with basic courtesy. Acknowledgement doesn't require engagement, doesn't require warmth, doesn't require participating in their need for extended conversation. You can acknowledge their presence without engaging deeply with their fishing, their explanations, their obvious emotional state, can be civil without being warm, can respond without being receptive to deeper conversation they're hoping to create. The acknowledging without engaging protects you from being pulled into dynamic where you're managing their emotions, where you're providing closure they're seeking, where you're engaging with explanations that don't adequately explain, where you're participating in their need to know if possibility exists. Acknowledgement is, I see you've reached out. I'm acknowledging the reaching out. I'm being civil because I'm civil person. That's extent of what I'm offering. Not offering deep engagement, emotional availability, participation in fishing, receptiveness to explanations, warmth suggesting openness to more. Just offering basic civil acknowledgement that doesn't provide what they're seeking. Emotional engagement, signs you still care, indication possibility exists. The limited acknowledgement communicates, I'm civil, I'm not emotionally available, I'm not interested in deep conversation, I'm not providing what you're fishing for. The communication protects your boundary, protects you from being pulled into engagement that serves their needs without serving yours. Being civil without being warm is skill. Is you being polite enough to not be cruel while being distant enough to not be encouraging? Is finding middle ground between warm engagement that suggests openness and cold rejection that might feel unnecessarily harsh? Middle ground is civil distance. Is you being human while maintaining boundary? Being courteous while being unavailable? Being polite while being protected? The civil distance serves you, serves by allowing you to handle encounter without compromising healing, without being pulled back into caretaking their emotions, without engaging in ways that serve their closure more than your well-being. Don't explain your healing or your life. Information about your thriving gives them data they'll use to determine strategy. Keeping your progress private protects your peace. They're fishing for information, fishing to know about your life, your healing, your relationships, your emotional state. Don't provide information. Don't explain your healing. Don't share about your thriving. Don't disclose your relationship status. Don't give them data about your life. Information serves them by helping them strategize, helps them determine, is she over me? Is she available? Is she happy without me? Should I pursue more or retreat? Information answers these questions. Answers help them determine strategy for proceeding. You providing information serves their strategizing, doesn't serve you. Serves them getting data they need to determine how to respond to your response. Keep your healing private. Keep your thriving private. Keep your life private. Information is yours. Your healing is yours. Your progress is yours. None of it is theirs to know. None of it requires sharing. Keeping private protects you, protects your healing from being strategized against, protects your peace from being interrupted by them using information about your thriving to determine how hard to pursue, protects you from their potentially using information to manipulate, to create guilt, to make you feel bad about having moved on, to use your happiness as evidence they should get another chance because they're suffering while you're thriving. Keep information private. Give them nothing. Let them wonder. Let them not know. Their not knowing protects you. Their knowing serves them. Choose protecting yourself over serving their information needs. If they ask direct questions about your life, deflect. If they fish for information about relationships, redirect. If they try to determine your emotional state, keep neutral. Give nothing. Share nothing. Maintain privacy about everything. Your privacy is your protection. Maintain it completely, regardless of their fishing or direct asking. Maintain boundaries, regardless of their emotional state. Their overwhelm doesn't obligate your comfort. Their distress doesn't require your caretaking. They're overwhelmed. They're visibly distressed. They're struggling emotionally. None of this obligates you. None of this requires you to comfort. None of this creates your responsibility to caretake their emotional state. Their overwhelm is theirs. Their distress is theirs. Their struggling is theirs, all between them and themselves, all consequences of their choices, all their emotional experiences to manage without your intervention. Don't comfort, don't caretake, don't make their overwhelm easier, don't manage their distress, don't help them with struggling. Let it all be theirs to handle. Maintain boundary, regardless of how uncomfortable their emotional state makes you feel. Their distress might pull you toward comforting. Pull is old pattern of you managing their emotions. Resist pull. Recognize pull as pattern. Choose boundary over pattern. Their emotional state is not your emergency, not your responsibility, not your problem to solve. Is consequence they're experiencing. Let them experience. Let them sit with overwhelm without you swooping in to make it easier. Let them struggle with inadequate explanations without you helping them find better words. Let them face that they hurt you without you minimizing hurt to make their facing easier. Maintain boundary means I'm not responsible for managing your emotional response to facing me after silence you chose. Your emotions are yours. My boundary is mine. Both maintained regardless of how uncomfortable maintaining feels. The maintaining protects you from being pulled back into caretaking, protects you from sacrificing boundary because they're struggling, protects you from old pattern where their emotional state controlled your behavior. Choose boundary, maintain it, regardless of overwhelm, regardless of distress, regardless of visible struggling. All theirs to manage. Your boundary is yours to maintain. Both happening simultaneously, both appropriate. Only yours requires your attention and maintenance. The permanent truth about what happens when they finally face you after long silence. They break the silence. After months or years of sustained absence. After period long enough that silence felt permanent. They reach out. They face you. And when they do, when they finally face you after long silence, specific things happen every single time. They're overwhelmed with emotion they can't control. They try to act casual while clearly not being casual. They struggle to explain silence while recognizing explanations are inadequate. They desperately fish for evidence you still care. All of this happens predictably, happens with such consistency, it reveals pattern that proves silence wasn't indifference, was suppression, wasn't them being fine without you, was them defending against feeling about you, wasn't them moved on, was them avoiding facing what facing you makes undeniable. They care, they miss you, they're not fine, they made mistake choosing silence. The pattern validates you, validates that silence wasn't about your worth, was about their defended position, validates you mattered enough that seeing you destroys defended composure, validates you created impact profound enough that facing you after absence triggers overwhelming response. Use pattern to validate yourself, to confirm you weren't problem, to recognize their silence was their defense, not your insufficiency. The validation serves you, serves your healing, serves your confidence that what happened was about them, not about you. But don't let validation soften boundary. Don't let their overwhelm create your obligation to comfort. Don't let their reaching out create your obligation to engage. They chose silence. They chose sustained absence. They chose defended comfort over difficult presence with you. Now, they're experiencing consequences, experiencing what absence cost them, experiencing overwhelming emotion, facing new triggers, experiencing inadequacy of explanations for sustained withdrawal. All appropriate consequences of their choices. Your job isn't managing their consequences, isn't comforting their overwhelm, isn't engaging with their fishing, isn't helping them find adequate explanations. Your job is maintaining boundary, protecting healing, choosing yourself over their emotional needs. They face you after long silence. Predictable things happen. All prove they care. None prove they've transformed. None prove they're ready. None create your obligation to engage, acknowledge civilly, maintain distance, protect privacy, keep boundary regardless of emotional state. Their overwhelm and your boundary both happening, both appropriate. Only yours determines your well-being. Choose yours. Maintain it. Regardless of their pattern, regardless of their overwhelm, regardless of their fishing, you've built life without them. Maintain that life. Protect that healing. Choose that peace. Their facing you after silence proves you mattered. Your maintaining boundary proves you matter to yourself more than their overwhelm matters. Both true. Only second one determines your future. Choose it completely. Why? Their pattern of breaking silence should strengthen your resolve rather than soften it. Understanding what their predictable response reveals helps you use information to reinforce boundaries rather than question them. The pattern proves your leaving was necessary. Someone who needs sustained silence to process their feelings is someone incapable of processing during relationship. They needed silence, needed sustained, complete absence to process what they feel, needed months or years away from you to recognize what you mean to them, needed loss to create recognition that presence prevented. The needing proves fundamental limitation, proves they can't process feelings in real time, can't recognize value while possessing value, can't appreciate what they have while having it, can only understand what you mean through losing you, can only access feeling about you through absence from you, can only face what they feel when facing is forced by sustained loss. The pattern reveals real-time emotional processing during relationship is beyond their capacity. They need crisis of loss, need pain of absence, need sustained separation. Creating recognition presence prevented. This limitation makes partnership impossible. Makes it impossible because partnership requires real-time processing. Requires recognizing partner's value while having partner. Requires appreciating what you have while having it. Requires access and feeling during relationship, not just during loss. Requires facing emotions as they arise, not just after sustained absence, forces facing. They can't do this. Pattern proves they can't. Pattern proves they need to lose you, to see you. Need you gone to recognize what you mean. Need sustained silence to access feeling. Presence suppresses. Someone with this limitation can't sustain partnership, can't value partner in real time, can't process emotions during relationship, can only process after relationship ends through loss, creating crisis that forces processing. They're reaching out after silence. Doesn't prove limitation healed, proves limitation operated exactly as expected. Needed loss to recognize, needed absence to feel, needed silence to process. The pattern happening exactly as pattern always happens proves limitation persists, proves they're still person who needs loss to recognize value, still person who needs absence to access feeling. Still person who processes through crisis, not through relationship. Use this proof to strengthen resolve. To recognize leaving was necessary because staying would mean being with person who can't value you while having you, who can't process feelings during relationship, who needs to lose you to recognize you. That's not partner. That's person with limitation that makes partnership unsustainable. Their pattern proves your leaving was right choice. Proves staying would mean accepting insufficient partner whose limitation makes real-time, reciprocal intimacy impossible. Their breaking silence doesn't indicate they've done the work. Reaching out, motivated by pain rather than by transformation, proving crisis drove contact, not capacity development. They broke silence, reached out, faced you. But why? What motivated breaking silence? Pain. Pain of absence becoming unbearable. Pain of suppression becoming too costly. Pain of threshold being crossed, where silence hurt more than facing. Pain is what motivated contact, not transformation, not healing, not capacity development through therapeutic work, not having addressed defended position through sustained professional intervention. Just pain, just crisis, just threshold of suffering being crossed. The pain motivation proves they're reaching out from same defended position they were in when they went silent. They haven't transformed, haven't healed defended psychology, haven't developed capacity through therapeutic work, haven't addressed wounds, making real-time processing impossible. They're same person, same defended position, same limitations. Just hurting enough now that pain forces contact, despite defended position remaining unchanged. Crisis-driven contact doesn't prove readiness, proves crisis, proves pain became unbearable, proves threshold crossed. Doesn't prove they've become person capable of sustaining what pain is motivating them to pursue. Doesn't prove they've developed capacity that pain-free state didn't motivate them to develop. Doesn't prove therapeutic work occurred creating transformation. Just proves pain forces behavior change that comfort didn't force. Pain forced contact is crisis response. Crisis responses fade when crisis resolves, when pain diminishes, when threshold recalibrates. Crisis-driven behavior change isn't sustainable change. It's temporary response to unbearable state. They're reaching out because hurting, not because transformed, not because healed, not because capable, because suffering enough that facing you feels necessary despite fear and despite unchanged defended position. Use this understanding to maintain boundary, to recognize reaching out doesn't indicate readiness, indicates crisis, indicates pain, indicates suffering. Driving contact that capacity didn't drive. Don't soften for crisis response. Don't engage because they're hurting. Don't accept pain-driven contact as evidence of transformation. They're reaching out from pain, not from healing. From crisis, not from capacity. From unchanged defended position that's currently suffering enough to force contact. Suffering doesn't create transformation. Therapeutic work creates transformation. They're showing suffering, not showing work. Suffering proves they're hurting, doesn't prove they're ready. Maintain boundary. Recognize crisis response for what it is. Don't accept crisis-driven contact as indication of anything except that they're experiencing consequences of their choices, and consequences hurt enough to force reaching out despite continued defended incapacity.